There's something deeply paradoxical about life the harder we chase. The further things seem to run, the tighter we hold on, the more things slip through. But when we finally release, not out of defeat but out of surrender, something shifts. Life doesn't unravel into chaos, and instead it softens, it aligns. This episode is about that quiet mystery, about surrender not as a sign of weakness but as an act of trust. Trusting the unseen rhythm of life, the intelligence that we often can't explain but feel deeply when we stop resisting. We've all had moments where effort isn't enough. In work, love, or our deepest dreams, we push harder, plan better, try everything, and still, nothing opens. So we double down, thinking control will get us there. But what if that control is exactly what's holding us back? It's a strange truth. The more we force, the more life resists. And in that resistance, frustration builds. Until one day, maybe out of exhaustion, we let go. Not because we've mastered surrender, but because we're too tired to keep fighting. And somehow, in that space of release, things begin to move. Gently. Naturally. Surrender isn't giving up. It's giving into life, to timing, to the unfolding of things beyond our control. It's the difference between a clenched fist and an open hand. One is strong but closed. The other is soft, receptive, ready. Take Sarah, an artist who spent years chasing success, networking, promoting, producing. But her art felt lifeless, and so did she. Eventually, she stopped chasing outcomes and returned to creating for joy. No expectations, no agenda. That's when things changed. A gallery owner found her work, moved by its honesty, and gave her the break she'd been chasing. The shift didn't come from effort, but from release. Desire isn't the issue, it's natural to want. The trouble begins when desire turns to control. When we measure our worth by how fast dreams manifest, true surrender invites flow. It doesn't cancel action, it purifies it, replacing fear with clarity. Desperation with inspiration. Think of surrender as intelligent participation. You plant the seed, water it, give it sunlight, but you don't dig it up every day to check its progress. You trust. You let go. So ask yourself, where are you holding too tightly? What dream are you smothering by trying too hard? What if, instead of forcing your path, you allowed it to reveal itself, because maybe, just maybe, what you're trying so hard to reach is already trying to reach you if only you'd stop getting in the way. There's something powerful that happens when we shift from pressure to presence. If there's one change you could make today, let it be this. Let go not of the dream, but of the timeline, the formula, the need to control. And just notice what begins to move when you do. Because often, the thing that's holding us back isn't the world. It's something quieter, more personal resistance. That invisible force that shows up right when we're about to do something meaningful. It whispers doubts, fuels fear, convinces us that safety is better than growth. Most of the time, we don't even realize it's there. We just feel stuck, distracted, unmotivated, or we self-sabotage and call it logic. Resistance wears many masks. It shows up as procrastination, as the inner critic calling your dreams unrealistic. It feels like fatigue when you sit down to work on something that matters. It hides in fake productivity, like checking emails or cleaning the kitchen, anything but the one thing your heart truly calls you to do. That's the trick of resistance. It disguises itself as protection, when really, it's keeping you small. But here's the reframe: resistance only shows up when something real is trying to emerge. It's not a sign of failure, it's a sign of potential. Like hitting a wall in the dark, it tells you you're at the edge of something important. Instead of backing away, try asking, what am I really afraid of? Resistance is usually fear in disguise, fear of being seen, fear of failing, fear of not being enough. It's the collision between the part of you that wants to grow and the part that wants to stay safe. That tension, it means you're alive. It means something meaningful is happening. Take Adam, a writer with a dream to publish. He had the talent, the time, the vision. But every time he sat down to write, anxiety took over. What if it's terrible? What if no one reads it? What if I fail? So instead of writing, he reorganized his bookshelf. Again, resistance kept him busy but far from his calling. Everything shifted when he stopped fighting the fear and started acknowledging it. He didn't wait for resistance to disappear. He learned to move with it. That's what surrender looks like in the face of fear. Not overpowering it, but understanding it. Meeting it with kindness, with curiosity. Not asking, "What's wrong with me?" but "What is this fear trying to protect me from?" Sometimes we believe success will cost us love, or that failure will prove our worst fears true. But those beliefs aren't permanent. When we bring them into the light, they lose their grip. You can even write to your resistance, "Let it speak." Then respond not to argue, but to reassure. "I hear you, but I'm not staying stuck," because staying stuck might feel safe, but you weren't made for safety. You were made to express, to create, to grow. And that means dancing with resistance, not letting it lead. Here's one way to soften resistance, shrink the scale. Don't write a book, write one sentence. Don't change your whole life, take one honest step. Resistance feeds on overwhelm, but presence dissolves it. And remember, you are not broken because you feel resistance. You are human. Every meaningful creator, dreamer, and leader has met this invisible weight. The difference is they moved anyway, because they knew this. On the other side of fear is freedom. So today, don't ask how to get rid of resistance. Ask how to understand it. Ask what truth is trying to surface beneath it. And then with compassion, take one small step. That's how you reclaim your power, not by force, but by surrender, by choosing to move forward, even when fear tells you not to. There's a silence that follows resistance, but not the peaceful kind, the heavy kind, the kind that makes you question everything. Is this worth it? Am I doing something wrong? Should I stop? And in that uncertainty, we cling to control when we try to predict, to secure, to guarantee the outcome. But life doesn't work that way. It never had. And maybe it's not meant to, because there's a greater rhythm at play. Call it the universe. Call it divine timing. But know this, your job isn't to control the unfolding. Your job is to show up with presence, with trust, with the quiet courage to keep going anyway. Call it what you like, the universe, intuition, divine timing. The name doesn't matter. What matters is the essence. There's a force moving through your life that knows more than you do. And when you begin to trust it, things start falling into place in ways you couldn't have scripted. Trust is hard not because it's complicated, but because it asks for something deeper than logic. It requires you to surrender control, not just in your thoughts, but in your emotions. It means being okay with not knowing. It means walking forward, even when the path ahead is unclear. That's not easy for the mind, which craves certainty. But maybe the heart doesn't need certainty, maybe it just needs connection. Think of Maya. She spent years chasing purpose, reading books, trying different jobs, mapping out 5-year plans, but nothing ever clicked. Until one day, she stopped chasing and started listening not to the world, but to herself. She followed the subtle sparks, the quiet moments that made her feel alive. It wasn't loud, it wasn't sudden, but it was real. One small, honest decision at a time. She followed what felt right. A year later, she found herself doing work that was meaningful, aligned, and unexpected. Not because she forced her way there, but because she trusted the unfolding. That's what trusting life looks like. It's not waiting around for perfect signs. It's staying open to the unexpected, noticing the nudges, and choosing to act even when there's no promise of a clear outcome. Sometimes the detour is the way. Sometimes not getting what you want is what makes room for what you need. But to see that, you have to release your obsession with timelines. Stop comparing your journey to someone else's. The universe doesn't work on deadlines. It works on alignment. And when the time is right, when you're ready on a level you might not even recognize things, begin to move. Not because you forced them, but because you became the person who could receive them. That doesn't mean doing nothing. Trust is not passivity, it's participation. You still act. You still show up, but from presence, not pressure. You become a dancer moving with the rhythm, not someone dragging the music along. There's freedom in that. There's peace in realizing life isn't against you. It's not testing you, punishing you, or holding out on you. It's shaping you. And when things don't work out, maybe they're not rejections, maybe they're redirections. Maybe the closed doors are pointing you somewhere better. Maybe the delays are preparing you for something deeper. But to see that, you have to stop forcing the narrative and start listening to the deeper story trying to unfold. So ask yourself, where in your life have you been pushing too hard? Where have you mistaken? Struggle for progress. Can you release your grip on the timeline and start trusting not blindly, but consciously, that what's meant for you is already finding its way? Because when you do, something shifts, not just in what comes to you, but in how you feel. You become more grounded, more open, more at peace. That's the quiet magic of trust. It doesn't promise a perfect life, but it gives you a real one. And in a world full of noise, pressure, and comparison, that's more than enough. We've been taught that effort is everything, that if we just push hard enough, do more, force our way forward, life will eventually submit. But what if the answer isn't more pressure, but more space? What if what we need isn't more striving, but more allowing? There's a subtle but profound difference between acting out of fear and acting from alignment. When we act from fear, we rush, we grasp. We demand results to validate our worth. We live in the future, measuring the present by what hasn't happened yet. But when we act from alignment, something changes, nor there's a calm to it, a quiet clarity. We're no longer chasing something out there, we're responding to something true within. Allowing means dropping the need to force. It means remembering that you don't have to make everything happen. You just have to meet life halfway open, willing, present. And in that space, something remarkable unfolds. Not everything in life requires our immediate intervention. Some situations simply need time to unfold. Some problems don't need to be solved today. And some answers can only be heard when the noise within us finally quiets. But that's not easy. Most of us have been taught that control equals success. We've been praised for taking charge, pushing through, making things happen. So the idea of stepping back can feel like laziness or even failure. And yet, there's a discipline in allowing. It takes strength to hold space without rushing in. It takes wisdom to know when to take action and when to step aside. To allow is to trust, not just in timing, but in yourself. It's not passive waiting. It's mindful presence. You're still here, still engaged, still paying attention, but no longer reacting out of panic or pressure. Instead, you respond with presence. And that kind of presence carries power. Not the loud, attention-seeking kind, but a quiet, steady confidence that needs no validation. Ironically, the solutions we chase so desperately often reveal themselves the moment we stop chasing and start listening. Think of nature. A seed doesn't become a tree overnight. It needs space, soil, stillness, and time. If we try to rush that process, we ruin it. But if we allow the conditions to support its growth, it flourishes. The same is true for our goals, our relationships, our healing. They don't need more pressure, they need room to breathe. So maybe the better question isn't what more can I do? Maybe it's what can I let go of? Can you release the need to have every answer now? Can you stop trying to force a solution and let it come on its own? Can you trust that clarity grows in stillness, not in struggle? Because in that space, when urgency softens, you begin to move with life, not against it. You tune into your own rhythm, not just the noise of the world. And suddenly things begin to align, not because you forced them, but because you got out of your own way. Take a breath. Release the urgency. You don't need to force what's meant to flow. You don't need to chase what's already finding its way to you. Let's talk about expectations. They're silent burdens we carry, stories about who we should be, how fast we should grow, what success should look like. These expectations shape our thoughts, distort our perception, and often leave us disappointed, not because life failed, but because it didn't follow the script we wrote in our heads. That script, it's rarely based on reality. It's rooted in fear, in control, in comparison. We don't just want things, we want them on our terms, on our timeline, under our conditions. And when life doesn't obey, we feel betrayed. But here's the truth. Expectations create tension, and tension blocks flow. Desire isn't the problem, desire is human. Vision is powerful. But when desire hardens into rigid expectation, we begin to suffer. We narrow our focus so tightly, we miss the very gifts life is trying to give us. There's a quiet freedom in letting go of expectations. Not because you stop caring, but because you care enough to let things unfold naturally. You show up. You give your best. But you release the obsession with outcome. That's not giving up. That's growing up. Think of the pain we carry from unmet expectations. You expected someone to act differently. They didn't. You expected a goal to be reached by a deadline. It wasn't. You reached a milestone but didn't feel the joy you thought you would. The pain wasn't in what happened, it was in what you expected to happen. That's the hidden cost. Expectations tie your peace to things you can't control. They make your joy conditional. So what's the alternative? Not indifference, but presence. Devotion to the process, not obsession with the prize. You still plan, you still dream, but you hold it all a little more lightly. You leave room for life to surprise you, because often, the best things that happen are the ones you never saw coming. But you only recognize them when you're no longer blinded by what should have happened. So pause. Ask yourself, what expectations am I holding that no longer serve me? What old stories am I clinging to about what my life should look like by now? And what would happen if I let them go, not to fall behind, but to come back to what's real? Because when you do, you'll feel a shift, a lightness, a calm, a deeper connection with the present moment. Not because life got easier, but because you stopped trying to control the uncontrollable. Stillness isn't empty, silence isn't absence. They're often where the most powerful shifts begin. But we rarely make space for stillness. We see it as unproductive, a pause between the real parts of life. But what if stillness is the real part? What if in those quiet moments, we're not escaping life, but finally meeting it fully? There's a quiet space within you, not dramatic, not loud, but deeply powerful. It's a space of surrender, not as a final act of giving up, but as a gentle return to presence, a return to the breath, a return to now. No judgment, no resistance, just being. We carry tension constantly in our thoughts, in our bodies, in the way we approach each moment with subtle urgency. Meditation helps us notice this. It slows us down enough to see the noise we've become numb to. And in that noticing, the grip begins to loosen. You don't need to be a monk. You don't need a perfect room, an hour of silence, or a retreat. Just 5 minutes of intentional awareness can shift everything. Sit quietly. Close your eyes. Feel your breath just as it is. Don't change it. Just witness it. When thoughts come, and they will let them pass like clouds. No need to follow. No need to resist. This isn't about stopping your thoughts. It's about no longer being controlled by them. Over time, you'll discover a stillness beneath the noise. Not emptiness, fullness. Full of awareness, full of clarity, full of life. And from that stillness, surrender comes naturally. Not because you gave up, but because you stopped fighting what is. You stopped needing every moment to be different. Meditation is one way to access this, but not the only way. Stillness, presence. Surrender, their practices, their muscles we build through daily return. Return to the breath. Return to the self beneath the pressure. And from that place, insight doesn't come through force. It arises from connection. We often associate control with strength. We cling to schedules, obsess over outcomes, and micromanage our lives like it's the only way to survive. But control isn't born from power, it's born from fear. Fear of uncertainty, fear of failure, fear of not being enough. And the more we try to dominate life, the more disconnected we become from its natural rhythm. The paradox is clear. The tighter we grip, the more things slip away. Control gives us the illusion of safety, but not peace. It gives us tension, anxiety, burnout. And when things don't go to plan, We blame ourselves, but maybe we never had control in the first place. Surrender challenges this illusion. It invites us to rethink what true power looks like. True power doesn't force, it flows. It doesn't dominate, it adapts. It's quiet, rooted. It doesn't shout for attention, it radiates calm. This shift is radical. It requires unlearning what we've been taught. That if we don't plan, predict, and push, everything will fall apart. But life is not a machine, it's a living process. And living things respond not to control, but to presence, awareness, and alignment. Surrender doesn't mean you give up responsibility. It means you shift from trying to force outcomes to choosing how you respond to them. It's the difference between saying, I must make this happen, and I will meet whatever happens with clarity and grace. That changes everything: your stress levels, your resilience, your relationship with failure. You stop internalizing every obstacle as a personal shortcoming. You start seeing life moment by moment, not as a test to pass, but as a chance to respond wisely. Control is rigid. Surrender is responsive. And responsiveness is what life actually asks of us. That doesn't mean you stop dreaming or making plans. It just means you stop attaching your identity to them. You stop believing that your worth depends on outcomes. You are not your productivity. You are not your results. You are the awareness behind it all, the one who can adjust, adapt, and begin again. So ask yourself, where is control tightening your grip on life? Where have your routines become cages, not containers? Can you soften? Can you release the need to manage every detail? Because in that softening, you don't lose power, you gain freedom. The freedom to pivot, to breathe, to move with life. That's true strength, the kind that bends without breaking, the kind that listens before it reacts, the kind that whispers, I'm not here to conquer life, I'm here to collaborate with it. And here's the paradox. The moment you stop needing something is often the moment it starts to arrive. Not because life is playing tricks on you, but because letting go changes your energy. It shifts you from lack to presence, from grasping to receiving. You try, you chase, you push, nothing happens. Then one quiet moment, you let go, and things begin to move. Not always immediately, not always in the way you imagined, but the shift is real. Surrender invites alignment, not because you gave up, but because you gave into flow, to timing, to trust. But to truly understand this, you must ask something deeper. Why do I want what I want? Is it because you believe it will make you whole, make you safe, make you finally feel like enough? Much of our striving doesn't come from inspiration. It comes from a belief that we are incomplete. And that belief creates pressure. Until I have this, I can't be at peace. Surrender breaks that cycle. It says I can want something and still be whole. I can pursue something and still be at peace. That's the difference between desire and desperation. And that difference is where freedom begins. Surrender doesn't mean abandoning your dreams. It means no longer letting them define your worth. You still show up, take action, and do the work, but without gripping the outcome so tightly. You stop measuring your value by what goes right. Instead, you begin to realize how you live matters more than what you achieve. This isn't a trick, it's a principle. When you push, life resists. When you open, life flows. The calmer you are, the more clearly you see. Your decisions come from clarity, not chaos. Your presence becomes magnetic. You're not chasing approval, you're standing in truth. Even when things don't go your way, you remain grounded, because your peace isn't built on outcomes, it's built on alignment. This is the quiet power of surrender. It gives you your life back, not as a reward for letting go, but as the natural result of being here now. So ask yourself, what are you gripping so tightly it's causing tension instead of movement? What would it feel like to want deeply without needing that desire to define you? That's not weakness. That's emotional maturity. That's freedom. Relationships are often mirrors for our control. In love, in family, and friendship, we sometimes try to shape others into who we need them to be. We expect them to love how we love, speak how we speak, meet unspoken needs as if they should read our minds. But that's not connection. That's quiet control often rooted in fear. True love doesn't demand, it invites. It doesn't mold, it honors. Surrender in relationships isn't silence. It's knowing when to speak with compassion instead of control. It's knowing the difference between expressing needs and managing outcomes, between holding someone accountable and resenting them for not becoming who we wanted them to be. Letting go of the script we've written for others makes room for the person in front of us to be real. And when both people meet in that space, raw, honest, unforced, a deeper kind of connection emerges, not perfect, but true. So ask yourself, where in your relationships are you holding too tightly? What could shift if you let go of the pressure, not the person? We overlook the present moment. We chase what's next. We regret what's past. And we forget that this is the only place anything real happens. To live in the present, we have to surrender the urge to mentally escape it. We have to stop rushing through now to arrive at someday. Presence doesn't ask for perfection. It just asks for participation, to meet this moment as it is not how we wish it would be. And the more often you return to now, the more grounded, calm, and whole you feel. So gently ask yourself, where are you right now, not physically, but emotionally, mentally? Energetically, are you here or lost in a future you can't control or a past you can't change? If not, come back to your breath, to the feeling in your chest, to the ground beneath your feet. Come back to what's real. So much of what we're chasing, peace, clarity, connection, meaning, is already within reach. We miss it not because it's far, but because we're moving too fast, gripping too tightly, trying too hard to shape life instead of living it. Surrender isn't giving up, it's tuning in. It's letting go of the illusion that control keeps us safe. It's learning that true safety comes from presence, from responding rather than reacting, from trusting that what's meant for us is already on its way. So instead of asking, what do I need to make happen? What am I being asked to let go of? Let go of the story. Let go of the timeline. Let go of the grip. And watch what finds you when you're finally ready to receive, not because you forced it, but because you opened to it. Surrender isn't a one-time act. It's a daily remembering, a returning, a practice. So let this be your invitation not to do more, but to be more present, more open, more willing to trust what life is already offering. One breath at a time, one moment at a time. You're not letting go because you're weak. You're letting go because you're finally strong enough to stop fighting life and start dancing with it.